It's difficult. We've laid off, or furloughed, I should say, over 1,200 employees, which is very difficult because a lot of them are, counting on a paycheck from week to week to support themselves, their family. So it's a difficult situation, and that's probably my biggest concern. Second to that is making sure that our restaurants are able to survive through this time and reopen. If we can't survive and reopen, of course, then there's no jobs for our team to come back to. So those are my two most important aspects of what's going on at this moment.
What have you done, if anything, to soften the blow to those 1,200 employees who you've had to furlough?
Yeah, well, we're going to continue to offer them their health benefits, and that's going to be good for them, so they have that. We're starting what we're calling a soup kitchen here in one of our restaurants. That's going to be able to help feed them, through this time, so we can offer them sustenance and food and nutrition through this time. We have a garden for them to work in. Some of them we're going to continue to try to do the best we can to keep them as busy as possible through these uncertain times.
What have your relationships been with landlords and the property owners? I don't know whether, I assume you rent some space, you probably own some of your spaces. Have you gone to those landlords and said, what relief can you give me?
Some of them, yes. I mean, fortunately, we own 3 of our properties here in Yountville, in California, so we are our own landlords, so that's an easy one. But the ones that we do lease, yes, whether it's in New York or Miami, we're really working with them to defer some of our payments, and certainly the same thing with our banks to help us defer some of our mortgage obligations for the time being. But certainly those are huge. Those are huge obligations for us, financial obligations, but
Sure.
we're trying to mitigate it the best that we can.
And obviously this ripples through because you have suppliers from whom you're buying product, produce, meat, fish, and so forth, and their business dries up, so it moves back up the supply chain in a very serious way. Are any of your domestic locations open for business, open for carry-out?
We have Bouchon Bakery here in Yountville, which we're going to start to begin to do takeout tomorrow. So again, just simple fare, coffees in the morning, beverages and sandwiches and salads, and just some muffins, just so people have a place to come and get some nutrition. But it's also very difficult. We don't know quite yet how that's going to work out. We don't know if there's a demand here, if the people are going to come. We just don't know. So we're going to start tomorrow, and we have to be very flexible, very dynamic, moving through these next couple of weeks.
How quickly did this disaster come down on you? In other words, if you went back to the 1st of March, say, when you were still operating in many places, I assume at lower turnouts than normal, to today, how much has fallen off? Now it's at revenue zero, I assume, pretty much across your system. But how quickly did the slide hit?
2 weeks, 2 weeks or less. It went from being fully capable of supporting our restaurants and supporting our teams, with the revenue that was being created through our guests, and that's the most important thing is our guests coming. Now we're down to zero. So there's zero revenue coming in, which means that we have to really, 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 really tighten our belts and make sure that we're acting responsibly for our restaurants. But at the end of the day, we need help. There are over 15 million people in our profession that don't have health care or who live paycheck to paycheck. The National Restaurant Association says 5 to 7 million of our jobs will be lost. Over 225 billion in losses the cost of restaurants just the short term alone. So we're looking at major difficulties in the coming year, and we're going to need some help. I'm really proud of our colleagues who have come together throughout the country to help support, give ideas to what we need to do as a profession. And remember, it's not just restaurateurs and chefs. We're talking about everybody who is in food service.
For sure.
The cafeteria workers at the schools, the cafeteria workers at the hospitals. As you pointed out, this goes far. This goes really, really far. Our farmers, fishermen, foragers, gardeners, everybody who supplies us. Yeah, it's extraordinary the number of individuals that the restaurant profession supports.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview on NPR the other day about an oyster farmer on the Jersey Shore. He said his business supplying restaurants has just fallen to zero because no one's going to restaurants, and he's still got expenses to take care of his oyster beds. I don't mean to be too dire here, but how long could you hold on before you get to a point where you say, we're just not going to be able to reopen this particular location?
Well, it's not going to be very long for some of our restaurants. Some of our restaurants are very new. We have a La Calenda here in Yountville and Tech Room and Hudson Yards in New York, which are very new restaurants. So they're requiring a lot of attention and certainly require a lot of resources, both financial and human resources, to make them successful. So, you know, we have to be very careful moving forward and being able to really maintain as much resources, financial resources, as we possibly can, so that we can reopen the restaurants. How long will that be? We're not sure yet.